I'll now show you my best game of that tournament from the third round against Michael Adams. So e4, e5. We just head down a decisive. But bishop b3, d6 surprised me a little bit. Of course, Adams is a big martial specialist. But when he went d6, I knew something else was afoot. I wondered if it was a decisive. c3 castles, h3, bishop b7. Yep, it is. Not knight b8, the Breyer, for instance. And now Michael had never played this line before. But it suddenly hit me that I had a great idea which I had wanted to use against Gatakamsky in 1995, and whether it was still playable. But of course, in all those years, maybe I hadn't really reverted to that analysis much. So, except briefly in 1998 when I had to play Belyavsky, whether I could remember it all. But anyway, we went down the main line. Knight d7, rook a3, c4, ab5, ab5, knight d4, queen b6, knight f5, knight e5, rook g3, g6, knight f3. Now, if knight b d3, we thought the problem would be bishop e3. Queen d8, knight takes e5 with a big advantage. So you play knight e d3. And now the theory used to be this. But Arumba Yusupov found a spectacular idea back in 95, queen d2. I'll show you some sample lines. Knight takes e1. I in fact have to pause with knight e1, but now my queen is attacking b4. So black responds rook a1. I take, rook takes b1, check, check, and now bishop h6 check, king e7, bishop g5 check. First we do this. If black goes king d7, then I have queen d7 check, queen f7 check, king c8, queen takes e8 check, king c7, queen d8 mate. So black plays king f8, and now this beautiful move, queen h6 check. If king f7, then queen h7 check, king h8, bishop h6 is mate. So black has to play king f8, bishop f6, rook takes e1 check, king h2, and with two rooks and a knight extra, black has no defense to mate here. Queen g7 mate or queen h8, g7 mate, as the case may be. Black played in the end bishop d5, which is a mistake. Knight takes e1, knight takes e1. Actually, there's a clue in all this. Look at white's pawn structure, how it just hems black in perfectly. You might want to stop this, pause this broadcast at any minute and try and solve it yourself. But I'll give you the main line. It is knight takes d5 here, or even a move later. And here it's still possible to play knight d5, and it's now a draw. White can't successfully win this. So that was maybe just worth keeping in mind. Play over all the analysis because the analysis is really beautiful. But as of date, this line seems to be a draw with knight takes d5. Adams went bishop takes d5. I mean, he had to work all this out at the board, which is not at all easy. Knight h6 check, bishop h6, queen h6. So he went queen takes f2 check. Knight takes e1, clearly knight h4 is going to land, and this is over. Queen f2 check, king h2, knight takes e1. Now I played knight h4. And the problem for black is there's no real way to stop. For instance, if he were to go rook e6, I'd go knight f5, threatening mate. Queen takes g3, knight takes g3 with a big advantage. The bishop would retreat. I would go bishop d2. The knights would go here, bishop c3, and already there are problems. It is also possible that e takes d5 wins because things will start to happen on g6. black can play queen takes g3 check, king takes g3, maybe bishop e6. But then again we have this problem, bishop d2 and bishop c3. So Adams went knight e d3. And now I could land knight takes g6. There was also knight b d3, which has the point that black keeps the option on a knight f3 check somewhere. But again, the main problem for black is after knight takes g6, queen g3, king g3, f g6, it's basically just too much material. Queen g6 check, and such an open king, I'm just taking all his pawns. When knight e d3, knight takes g6, takes f g6, and now check, queen f6 check, and bishop h6. The point is, after bishop h6, if he goes rook a7, then queen g6 check wins the rook. So he resigned. There's a lot of material I haven't covered here, just not to repeat everything. It's all there in the DVD, so please go over it. After this game, I was tied with Topalov on 2.5 out of 3, and it seemed very promising. But while Topalov just kept on winning, in fact, he in the first 7 games he managed 6.5 points. I lost my 4th round to Kazim Zhanov I fell prey to a novelty of his in the Naidov. Then I drew 2 white games against Svidler and Leko. And then lost again to Morozevich in the 7th round, after which my tournament was effectively over. I was 3 points behind Topalov at this stage. I did manage a comeback in the second half. In fact, I was the top scorer in the second half, for what it's worth. And at least I won on tiebreak from Svidler, the second spot. And this meant that at least I was seeded into a later stage in the Scandinavian matches which were about to come at that point. So a recovery I'm happy with at the end, and I played some good games at the end, but somehow, okay, Topalov, though he drew all his games in the second half, he still managed a score of 1.5 points over Svidler and me, plus 6 in total. On the last day, Svidler, Topalov, myself and Morozevich were called in to hear a new proposal, which basically asked if we would give up our situation in the next candidate cycle to be the 4 seeds in the next tournament. We thought it over for a while and agreed. Then anyway, to cut a long story short, the other candidates started to worry about the other people who would have to play the qualification in Hanti-Mansisk in the World Cup, started to ask what would happen, and there were all sorts of changes in the air. But the biggest surprise was simply that the chess world suddenly got reunified. Topalov and Kramnik agreed to play a match sometime in like April. Topalov's form continued till mid-2006. He won Sofia even more convincingly this time. But when time came to play against Kramnik, Kramnik was, let's say, he started with a 2-point lead, and this colored events throughout the match, though Topalov managed to come back a little bit. He lost. Of course, you know most of the other stories, so I won't rehash them here. But after a very contentious match, Kramnik was now the unified world champion, which of course led everyone else to ask, well, what happens of our status in the next tournament? So anyway, I will return to this in a moment.